Can I get you to count to 10 really quick for me?
Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's about the level you'll be talking at, or should I?
Oh, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, I talk fast, so I'm going to try not to talk too fast. That's the East Coast thing.
Yeah, whatever is comfortable for you. Okie dokie. So let's start with just, and this will be the only time you actually look at the camera.
Okay.
Just an introduction, what school you're at, and the grade and all that.
Okay. My name is Diana Bowles. I teach at Stead Elementary School in Washoe County, and I teach kindergarten.
And what was this last class?
Math?
Okay, just general math.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right, here we go. We want to understand the decisions you made in planning for this lesson and how it fits into the unit and year. So how does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge? What was taught before this lesson and what will come after it?
So we have been working with composing numbers 11 to 19 prior to this for about 2-3 weeks. And then before that, we really hit counting and cardinality. And so they had a really good, solid foundation of number sense 0 to 5 and then 0 to 10. So we're just building upon that number sense. And we've worked a lot with the Rec and Rec. We've worked a lot with 10 frames, 5 frames, so that they really are trying to understand that the teen numbers are 10 ones and some further ones. And so that's what we've really been working on for the past couple of months to get to where we are now. And the focus of the lesson today was working with numbers 11 to 19 to build that foundation for place value.
Excellent.
And then so we went from composing, now we're decomposing, and then we'll continue with the decomposing up to within 19, up to 20.
Okay. So let's talk about the standards or cluster targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard or cluster?
So the focus was on 2 major clusters for kindergarten, and the first one was counting and cardinality. And so just them really understanding, that's why I had them go back and count to make sure that their count matched their number on the application piece and say, how many dolls did she have? 10, how do you know? Because I drew 10 dolls. So getting that one-to-one with the counting and cardinality and making sure that their number matches what they drew. And then the other major cluster was working with numbers 11 to 19 to build that place value. And so the whole lesson was focused on using those numbers. With the Rec and Rec, I went back and used lower numbers up till 10 just to work on what we had been working on previously to this lesson.
All right. Which of the core action indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified, and how did you plan for this?
It definitely exemplified core action 1 because I feel like it really did speak to the major clusters and the standards and the instructional practices and the shifts. So focus, coherence, and rigor. The entire lesson's focus was on major clusters for kindergarten. And then it was rigorous because this is a harder concept for them. And it was taking abstract to concrete and vice versa. And so they had trouble with the problem set, which I kind of anticipated that was going to be pretty hard for them. And so I'll probably go out back and reteach that tomorrow because I don't know that they all got the concept of the one more with the problem set. They seemed to do okay when we were on the carpet and with their linking cubes. When I said the number and we said, okay, one more is, they could say the one more. But then when they did the problem set, I'm not sure that they really got that understanding of that problem set. So, and then also, the coherence, it built upon things that we'd already done previously. So it built on the composing and then taking that to the decomposing and having that deep number sense that teen numbers are 10 ones and some further ones.
All right. Section 1 is complete.
I think I just had a kid vomit. And he came in.
Oh no. Could fooled me. All right, so second part here, we're going to talk about the shifts required by the CCSS.
Okay.
So we're interested in how the shifts required by the CCSS are being incorporated into your classroom. Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
Okay. As I just said previously, so the focus, coherence, and rigor are the 3 shifts for math. And the lessons that I'm using with my math program right now, I really like how it has the fluency piece at the beginning. So that was when we were using the Rec and Recs and when we were counting the regular way and the Say 10 way. And then when we were doing one more is. So that fluency piece is definitely there. And then they have the application problem that they go back to their seats and do. And then they have the main content or the conceptual procedure of the lesson. And so I like how it's broken down into those pieces, really focusing on the rigor of trying to have a balance between the application, the fluency, and the procedural skill. And just doing that fluency practice, it's less than 10 minutes at the beginning of every math lesson, but it's really building their number sense and their knowledge. So when we do our 10 frames or dot cards, the kids really are quickly being able to say, oh, that's 13, because I know there's 10, and then the 3 more. And then for the focus, it's very focused on the standards and the major clusters. It doesn't focus, the lessons that I've done thus far haven't focused on any additional clusters or minor clusters. They've all been counting and cardinality and number sense 11 to 19, number operations 11 to 19. And then the coherence, everything builds upon what we've done previously. So I've had to reteach lessons, obviously, because one lesson, the kids, they just were having a really hard time with it. And they were trying their hardest to persevere. And even when they got to a frustrational level, they kept persisting, but I knew that they weren't getting that deep understanding. And so we went back, and when I retaught it the second time, they did much better. And it's been a shift for me in the way I teach, too. My expectations are higher because I know what they're capable of. And so with the Common Core and the shifts, it really expects us to have higher expectations of our kids. And so that rigor, it is rigorous even for 5 and 6-year-olds, but they can do it. So that's pretty amazing.
It is.
It is.
All right. Let's talk about the before time and the long, long ago.
Okay.
5 months ago, who knows? How did you teach the content of this lesson prior to the CCSS? And what is the same and what is different?
We've actually been implementing Common Core at this site for a while, like over 4 years, probably close to 5 years. So it was kind of interesting for me to think about before because it was a while ago. But it was not as deep. Looking back now, I feel like, oh my gosh, those poor kids that are now in 4th grade, what did I do to them? But it's definitely more focused. And for every lesson, I think about what is the purpose of this lesson? Why am I teaching this? What is it going to lead to? What is it building on? And looking at instructional practices, looking at the standards, looking at the shifts, all of those things together are helping me to stay more focused on what I need to teach and why I'm teaching it. And for me, that was a big shift, the why. It's not just going on Pinterest and getting cute little ideas to do for math, for teen numbers. It's what do the kids where do they need to be by the end of the year, and how can I get them there, and how can I get them to think deeper about their thinking? And that's hard for kindergartners, to think about their own thinking deeply and then to think about their peers' thinking. And so I love that piece of Common Core to get them to think about their peers' thinking, think about what their peers said and how would they maybe change what they did. And a couple of the students did that with the Rec and Rec. They saw how their friend had done it differently and they're like, ew. And then they started moving and exploring with that, which is really cool. And before, I don't feel like the kids left with as solid a number sense as they do now, since I've been, doing Common Core and focusing on the instructional practice guides. Now they really are gonna have a really good foundation of numbers for when they go to first grade.
All right. Third section here, student engagement. So student engagement is critical to the work of the CCSS. We want to understand how you ensured that all students had the opportunity to productively engage in the work of the lesson. So how did the students handle this lesson? Did they understand the mathematics of this lesson, and how did you know?
For the engagement piece, that's something I've personally been trying to work on all year. And so having them have manipulatives in their hand is huge for my class for kindergarten. And so having the rec and recs, I knew that they were all engaged in the work of the lesson. They all were counting. I could see them just through informal observation. I could see that they were all doing the work of the lesson. They were trying to make the numbers that I said and then showing it to their friends. They were on task talking about the math. Then when we went to the application problem at their seats, they actually kind of surprised me because they did much better than I thought. I wasn't sure that some of them were going to be able to distinguish between the toys in the toy box and the floor on one piece of paper. So I actually made papers that had a toy box on one side and a blank side for struggling kids, and I didn't actually have to use those. So that kind of was a wow, is a nice wow. And through the application problem, I saw that they were getting the mathematics of it. They understood that they were trying to prove that she had the same amount of toys in the toy box as on the floor. And when one of my little friends went up to the board, she was able to clearly vocalize that. And so that is when I know they really understand it, when they can explain what they've done back to me. And that's been a process, because at the beginning of the year, they definitely weren't at that point yet. But through modeling and doing this every day, they have a word problem, and we've been doing this for months. And now I definitely see that it's helped to have them do it every day, because they need that practice and they need the modeling. And then, like I said, with the problem set, I don't think they understood the mathematics of it. So I definitely need to go back and think about how I can do that differently and see and pull. I counted maybe 4 out of the 16 that I really felt, okay, they could explain this and definitely get back to me. And then we ran out of time for the debrief. So I wasn't really certain how many of them could explain their thinking. So I definitely want to go back and make sure I follow up with that. But I need to do a little reteach piece for the problem set of the add one more.
All right. It's a two-parter here. Explain how you differentiated in this lesson. Did all students have opportunities to work on grade level content? If all students did not have this opportunity, please explain why.
All students did have the opportunity to engage with grade level content because they were major clusters and the standards, and we were working with numbers 11 to 19. Differentiation, some of my groups, you probably noticed, got pulled over with my assistant. And so those were my students who, as we were just walking around or as I saw them doing some things on the carpet, I realized that they were struggling a little bit with the concept. So he pulled them over for some smaller group work so that he could talk to them one-on-one. And some of them were my ELL students. And so they needed more graphics. And I'm not sure if he used that sheet with the toy box. I didn't see any of those. But I know he told some of the students, you might want to draw the toy box. So they just needed a little bit more prompting, which is fine. And then for the problem set, some of the students were confused with the blank spaces at the bottom, with the missing numbers. And so I told them, go ahead and write the numbers at the bottom. But the lesson, you weren't supposed to write the numbers till the end to get that one more. And so that's why I don't really feel like they got the concept of the one more each time. And so I need to go back and differentiate that even more, I feel. I need to work on that piece.
Okay. Which behaviors from Core Action 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson? And what actions have you taken as a teacher to make that happen?
This was a tough lesson for them, especially the problem set and the adding one more, I feel. But a couple of my friends that I kept going back to, the behavior that they exemplified was persisting. Even when the task got difficult, they kept persisting and kept with it and stayed on task and focused. And some of them, I could see the frustration on their faces, but they didn't give up. And so I pretty much, that's not an option in here. Like, you're gonna try, and you're gonna keep trying. And one little guy said, I don't know, I can't do it, or I didn't do it. And I said, I don't wanna hear can't and don't. We don't say that in here. And so I've kind of set that precedent. Like, we're not gonna give up. Like, we just keep trying. And I always tell them, practice makes better. And so I feel like they hear that every day. They kind of know she's not gonna let us give up. You know, so we've worked on that. And even with asking questions, we're working on no opt-out. So every child needs to be able to answer. And if they can't give an answer on their own, they can ask for help, but I'm going to come back to them to either restate something their friend said, or maybe they heard something that a friend said that made them think of something new to say. But I don't ever let a child say, I don't know, because then I would have that all day. So I just tell them, you're going to participate, you're going to try. And so I feel like they really did persist with the task, even when it got frustrating.
All right. Would you like to comment on any of the submitted student work? Was there something that delighted or surprised you with this work?
I will give some of the application problems to you from their journal. And like I said, it definitely, they got the concept quicker than I thought they would, and they were able to explain it in more depth than I thought they would be able to. So I was really excited with that. And then the problem sets, I need to work on. Those we're gonna go back in. We're gonna spend some more time with those.
All right. Last section here.
Okay.
Great instructors are continuously learning. We want to understand what you celebrated in this lesson and what you would improve upon. So reflecting on this lesson, what worked particularly well and what might you do differently?
The fluency piece worked really well, and having the teacher rec and rec, I really liked having that big visual, and I think that worked really well for them. And the kids that got to come up and actually do their work on the rec and rec, it was a great visualization for the kids. And then having their own individual rec and recs obviously really helped because they were each able to engage in the task. So that went really well. Having the students come up to the board and explain their problem, they just listen better to each other than as if I were to explain how the student did it. And they take ownership in it. They're like prideful of their work, which is awesome. We definitely encourage that. And then the not so well, again, was the problem set. I keep going back to that, but that's definitely the one thing that I feel did not work, and definitely need to look at that again.
Excellent. All right, well, the last question here.
Okay.
Were there any surprises or unexpected student behaviors or reactions?
They were a little bit off task with the cameras in the room throughout, waving at the cameras. But other than that, no. They're a chatty little group, so that didn't surprise me at all. And they get into their work. Like they weren't talking about I didn't hear them talking about any off-the-wall things. When they were chatting, they were talking about math or they were counting. So, that's good chatter to me. So other than that, no, I think everything went somewhat as expected. I knew they were gonna have trouble with the problem set. I anticipated that. I told a coworker about that this morning. I said, I don't know how this is gonna go, but we'll see. So that was kind of expected, but we'll just work on it some more and work on it until they get it.
10 out of 10.